live from the Marsh Theater in San Francisco. With a live audience, it's the Will and Willie Show.
Yeah.
I'm Paul Wells.
I'm Bill Durst.
And I'm Willie the Brown.
And Heather Knight joins us. Give her a big hand.
Say hi, Heather.
Now, you're a staff writer for the San Francisco Chronicle, but you do every Sunday the City Insider. And then we should get on to the Bible of voting here in San Francisco and the state.
Yeah, 25 ballot measures. I don't know how anybody's going to get through all of it, but...
No.
Yeah, but, Will, it's worse than that. There are also 17 ballot measures on the state side.
And 24 for the state.
No.
And then when you get your ballot, I don't know if you've gotten your ballot.
It's my book.
I've gotten 2 or 3 of mine. So far. And you know,
Vote early, vote often.
it's amazing how many separate, distinct ballots that you receive. And you got to remember, they keep flipping them because they up, down, backwards, and with all
both sides, 5
languages.
pages this long.
It's just awful. It's just, and I was in a point where, once you've done all the voting, you tear the deal off and fold it, and then you have to sign it, and you have to put your thumbprint, and I mean, it's just awful.
You have to fold them individually. You can't fold them all together.
No. You got to fold them individually and stack them individually in some
Otherwise,
kind of
the voting machines get confused.
I was talking to a reader the other day who was helping her son vote for the first time ever, and he said it took him 2.5 hours just to figure out all the city measures, and then he said, why am I bothering with this again? So
2.5 hours.
I think it's passing the buck for people.
But you know, we're at the point now where we can actually register to vote online. And when on the last day of registration this year, the Secretary of State's office advises that 250,000 people registered on that one day.
Wow.
250 online, you know. And they clearly didn't count all the ones I was doing. Online.
It's like the All-Star ballot.
How many can you fill out?
35 at a time,
And I got to assume that in the not-too-distant future, we're not going to have the problem we have with all this paper. We're actually going to be able, when you vote an absentee, to go online and just do your voting. And then at some point, you're not going to be able to vote unless you're willing to go online. And you're going to be able to do it from your handheld instrument. I walked into Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. The guy ahead of me paid for his coffee with his cell phone.
Yeah.
Swipe everything.
Yeah.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I said, may I use your phone?
A chocolate torte, please. Extra tall double latte with 2 shots of espresso.
But it's amazing how we are literally moving totally and completely into the electronic age. Speaking of the homeless, the Chronicle did that incredible. No, it's also electronic.
Going back.
Okay.
No,
I'm waiting for the segue.
Homeless people in San Francisco can have access to assistance through the electronic process. Our homeless people who are running the programs literally are urging the folk who are homeless to pull in and let's see if we can't get you hooked up and get you connected.
yeah, they have programs to get them cell phones because otherwise they're so hard to track down. If the opening does come up for a particular service or shelter, they need to have some way to reach them since they're not in one fixed location.
So is that a city program?
And by the way, you understand homeless people can vote.
I did not know that.
Oh, yes, they can now vote. And they say, well, what's your address? What do you mean address? What's my address? My address is a corner of Valencia and 21st.
Today, and then
Yes.
tomorrow it'll be at 16th and Darrow.
That's possible. But but when the Chronicle did that extensive story, I think they invested more money in the homeless operation for story purposes, and they got a Pulitzer or whatever you get for that kind of writing. But they did an incredible, and they have followed it up. And Heather has been near the forefront of all of what happens with reference to homelessness, but they still don't get this broadcast.
Well, we actually are doing a follow-up day. We had our first Bay Area-wide San Francisco Homeless Project in June, and there's going to be a follow-up in December when all those same organizations are going to write about homelessness again and track accountability, what happened since June, and is the city really on it?
Is it?
Getting better, but a long way to go for sure. I think the new Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing is at least trying, and it's good that all these services are finally under one roof.
Do we have the worst homeless problem in the country?
No, not per capita, but I think it's just so visible here that it seems to be more in everybody's faces, I think, than it was.
Well, like everything else in San Francisco, we're more prominent. Our numbers may not be as good. I'll tell you what you ought to really see.
We're
though.
number 2.
You ought to see the homeless operation in Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles. It is just absolutely horrendous. It's unbelievable. In the downtown section of the city, it's almost as if the city of Los Angeles has abandoned the idea that they can control it or remove it or even offer assistance to people. And so it's like they build a wall around it, and the non-homeless people don't even go visit. You might get arrested as a non-homeless people if you go to the homeless person if you go down there. But the homelessness in Los Angeles is, I believe, it's near the worst in the country. I haven't seen the whole country, but New York's homeless problem is not as it is here.
No, they have a clever program called Winter.
Yeah.
Also, they have a very extensive subway system. So there's miles to live underground. So I spent one week at the Grand Hyatt, which is above Grand Central Station, when Rudy Giuliani was still mayor and not crazy yet. And boy,
He's going to be Trump's AG,
yeah, that's what he wants. That's why he keeps saying the things he's
And I
saying.
think we're all on the list.
Oh, I was already on Nixon's list, but let's not go there. We had. There's a long story I'm not into. I just wanted to say this about it, though. The underground people on the weekends, because Giuliani was big on cleaning up the city, so you couldn't find the homeless Monday through Friday. However, around Grand Central Station, they came up for air on the weekends.
Well, also in New York, the law is different than in California. The law in New York is, because of the advocacy of the people who in the legislature there, law says that you can require people can be removed from the streets of New York, homeless, if there is housing someplace to put them. And so what Giuliani and Ocrado's done is, in the outlying boroughs, they've made it so that they have locations for people to be taken. And therefore, unlike San Francisco, where you have to commit a crime to be arrested, they can arrest you to remove you and get you off the streets of New York, and that's what they do.
Well, there's a similar measure up next week here, which is the Prop Q, where police will be able to remove tent encampments as long as there's a shelter spot for them to go to within 24 hours. And I'm hearing that it's pretty close, it might pass, which would...
Well, that's the law in New York, though. They can really absolutely do it.
What happened to that big shelter space that they had, Pier 82 or something?
Pier 80, yeah, that was port-owned property, and it was always a temporary thing because I forget what the use is now, but it was always...
Oh, I can tell you what the use is now. They just cut the ribbon on we're now a port to bring in cars from all over the world. It's a family that at one time just had a auto repair shop somewhere in San Francisco, and they eventually graduated to doing much greater things. They have now returned to San Francisco, and they have Pier 80, and Pier 80 is where the ships come in and bring cars, and they offload them. Yeah, they offload them there, and they
drive them to Benicia?
Well, it's amazing. I didn't realize how much damage that happens to cars on ships. And they have to have an auto repair shop there. They have to have a maintenance facility there. It's incredible.
They can get banged around.
They do,
Ship,
apparently.
yeah.
And before you see them, they make you think that they're new. I mean, they're still new.
Wholesale used car business was my family's business back in New York. So I used to drive cars to the pier. We used to...
Did your family acquire those cars legally?
Oh, very. But my Uncle Dave used to get phone calls, and, Davey, I need a 4-body trunk. when he died, there was the funeral procession was like 50 cars and guys who never got out of their limos and put big flowers on his grave, and I never knew who these guys were.
A 4-body trunk.
Oh yeah, 4-body trunk, a Lincoln. Yeah, something like that. It's hold 4 bodies in the trunk. Heather Knight from San Francisco Chronicle, City Insider, is our guest on the Will and Woolley Show. And if I said anything more, I could still be indicted.
No statute of limitations.
No.
Yeah.
But
7 years.
That's
besides...
changing, though. You know, they're changing the law.
No.
Yeah,
They're trying to
called
get
the
rid of
Bill
the
Cosby
statute of
law.
limitations.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they're trying
On
to get
everything?
Well, on most things.
Wow.
They're trying to get rid of the statute of limitations, which is, kind of interesting.
I like it.
But the statute of limitations, yeah.
As a criminal defense lawyer,
No tap backs.
that,
You can't go back there. What Heather, what do you think is the most positive of all the propositions? Because you've done extensive studying, and I've got my 222-page booklet for California State and 300 plus for the city of San Francisco. And then we have our listeners at KSCO in Santa Cruz more interested in the state one. So what do you think is the most important one to vote on?
I think here in San Francisco, City Hall is really banking on the increased sales tax to improve our transit system, which is obviously in major need of improvement as
They
well as
kind of wrote it
homelessness.
into the budget, didn't they?
Yeah, they're banking on it, and
I think they're banking.
literally, yeah, and
that's how they balance the budget.
yeah, they've already counted on all that money, but it's behind in the polls, and if the vote was today, it would probably lose. So that'll be interesting to see what City
Does
Hall
it have to
does.
pass by 2/3?
No, because they separated it into
50
two separate
plus
measures, so they were pretty clever. One measure just says, let's raise the sales tax, and then the
It's-
other one says for homelessness and
Well, it's clearly reflective of how some of us have lived our lives. I've been postponing payment for a long time.
Kick it down so far down the road that you can't see it due to the bend of the
Absolutely.
horizon, yeah.
It went one way, and I went the other. I think, however, that there is one on the ballot that H, which would create a
Public
shadow mayor
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of
with
the,
a 25-member staff,
one of these.
and with subpoena powers, and with
Shadow mayor?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called a public advocate, and what that person would do is that person would second guess every public decision
Oh, my living God.
with zero
Yes,
responsibility.
exactly.
That's a nightmare.
A staff
Oh
of
my
at
God.
least
Can you
25 people, cost to taxpayers $3.5 million a year, and we don't get to vote for this person.
And a 25-person staff?
But there's no oversight.
No oversight.
There's no oversight, nothing whatsoever, and it's kind of in place because once you had term limits, for example, we have term limits in this town.
Yeah.
And I was in total panic the day they swore Newsom in, because that means I'm out.
What do I do now?
What do I do? Unfortunately, I met you and we went to work on radio. If you remember,
Yeah.
we went to work on radio
Yeah,
for 2
it's
years.
2006.
And I made the adjustment back to Social Security. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't. But just think of how many, when Jordan beat Agnos back in, 91 or something, I was still speaker. And the speaker can appoint people to significant positions that pay well. And I knew that Agnos had no profession, he's a social worker. And I knew he'd have all kinds of trouble trying to get a gig. And he had 2 kids, and so I didn't even let him go one sleepless night. I called him up and said, "You're on my payroll. The day you're off of the city's
City.
payroll, you're on my payroll."
What did
And
he
he
do?
made it. I said, "But you only got 1 year. You got to do your transition within a year." He did a great job in the place that I had him operate. But there's no such service for people who are termed out. And there are termed out members of the Board of Supervisors this year that have no jobs. And so this is an opportunity to create a job for some of them, potentially.
It'll be an interesting sight tomorrow because the backers of Prop H who do want a public advocate are calling it a watchdog position, and apparently there's going to be a big gathering of bulldogs on the steps of City Hall tomorrow.
So, and where are the Bulldogs going?
Well, David Campos, the
Room
author of the
200.
measure, has one, so he'll be there with his dog, and he's gotten other dog owners to come out as well.
Statewide, which is the one that Jerry Brown is totally campaigning for right now?
53. And 53 was put on the ballot by a guy who processes and cans tomatoes. And he's the most successful tomato canner in the world. And he has a whole lot of money, doesn't know anything else to do, but he loves, messing around, politics. So he got $4 million and got the signatures and put that measure on the ballot, Prop 53. Prop 53 is now designed in a way in which every major infrastructure project that we have would have to be voted upon by the people if it's cost more than $2 billion. There are almost no infrastructure projects that wouldn't cost $2 billion. You got every one of the tunnels, you got the high-speed rail, you got all kinds of things. And so Jerry, being the governor and the father or what have you of the tunnels and of the high-speed rail, is absolutely incensed. And as cheap as he normally is, he's actually spending a lot of money. He spent $4 million of his own money, and he's actually the talking head in order to defeat it. And he said at breakfast that we had on Monday morning, we had a breakfast on Monday morning, and Jerry, who knows that the breakfast was sponsored by a nonprofit organization that isn't supposed to be political, he said, I don't think it's really political to say that my dog Sutter, or when my dog Sutter saw the printed piece on behalf of Prop 53, Sutter pissed on it.
So I would take that as a no.
He didn't say anything else. He no nothing.
We're going to do our Q&A section next on the Will and Willie Show, and Heather will continue with us, Heather Knight of the San Francisco Chronicle City Insider, and a live audience here at the wonderful Marsh Theater on Valencia Street in San Francisco. We'll be right back.